Hi everyone, and thanks for being with me. There was an interesting press conference held today between Dreyfus, Giles and O'Neill in relation to those people that have been detained and the absolute mess that's been created as a result primarily of the High Court making the decision that they did and the Liberal Party being so antagonistic towards the Labor Party because of the decision that the High Court has made and the attempts that the Labor Party have made in order to rectify that particular issue. Now, it doesn't matter which side of politics you may be on, but this is a matter that simply seems to resonate with the community about the community being safe, given that these people have been released. Now, it's a little involved, I think, in terms of who's being released and what in particular the crimes that those have been committed and the numbers of those people that have committed those crimes, which is a matter for debate because clearly it's not all of those people that have been released. Now, some explanations have been offered in relation to this at this press conference, and I wish to bring you some of that information. So I've taken a few excerpts from it. The first one is Dreyfus explaining the difference between what it is to be an Australian citizen and a person who is stateless. And it's a really important question that was asked. It's one I've often been asking. The second part is a statement by one of the people in the press gallery relating to whether we should apologise, whether the politicians should apologise for people that have been harmed. And because someone has been released and they assaulted somebody, and whether or not the ministers should take responsibility for that, and a really good answer was provided. And the final bit was actually in relation to who is responsible for enforcing this law and what would happen. This is a question I've often asked too. What would happen if the law was broken, if the government didn't abide by the High Court ruling and decision? And Dreyfus offers a really good response to that, one I had never thought of or considered because I just don't know the law, but he offers a solution, and I'll play that one for you as well. So it's about 6 minutes, I think, of video that I'll be playing to you. So let's start with the first two issues. Here we go.
The state not subjected to that, and just secondly, you're now passing laws that only apply to a particular cohort of people, those people who do not have visas, who have committed crimes, who've been in detention in Australia. There are people who have committed equally egregious, probably worse crimes than these people in the community, thousands of them, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, who will not be subjected to these laws, nor will they be subjected to state preventative detention laws because they're not uniform. Aren't you just creating two categories of law here? One for people who have served their time, been in detention for years beyond that, and then been deemed to be a risk to the community because they don't have a visa, and others who are in the same situation, perhaps a greater risk to the community, who just happen to be Australian citizens who are out in the community.
A couple of things in answer to that question, Mark. The first is that the High Court has made clear that it is a question for a court. So the judges who are going to be determining applications brought by the Minister for someone to be placed in preventative detention will be looking, I imagine, at those state regimes, because decisions made under those state regimes will necessarily inform the way in which the judges, considering orders to be made under this Commonwealth scheme, should go. And we've got quite a lot of law over the last 30 years or so since these preventative detention schemes have been in existence that is going to inform the decisions that courts will make. The High Court's made it clear that not only is it a matter for a court to decide, and there's no lawful way in which a minister can be empowered to detain someone. Not only have they made that clear, they've said that it is for the purpose of community safety, and they're looking at serious offending, a high probability of serious offending. And that's the way all of the state schemes work. That's the way the High Court, when the High Court upheld the high-risk terrorist offenders scheme in response to a challenge brought by Mr Ben Breaker, then they did say that it is open to the Parliament to legislate in this way, but they've put a pretty tight fence around it.
Okay, we'll come down differently because they don't have a visa. You're treating them differently to Australian citizens on the basis that they don't have a visa.
And they are different because they are people who do not have a visa. They are non-citizens, and they have all, at this point, been determined to be people who should be removed from Australia.
That's right.
That makes them a very different category of people from Australian citizens who, of course, cannot be removed from Australia.
Do you owe an apology to...
So the point I want to make there is that it was a good explanation, I thought, of the difference between the way we view those people in detention and those who are just Australian citizens. And that there will be a court that will decide on the fate of those people. And I think this is what part of the legislation is supposed to be doing, is to establish the court in this regard. Now, the next part of this is where Dreyfus gets really upset with whether or not we should be responsible, whether they should be responsible for anything that happens to people as a result of these. So anything that happens in the community, and there was a case, I think, where someone was assaulted by one of these released detainees, and which is a bit of an oxymoron because they're not detainees if they're released. But nevertheless, this is the question that was asked, and this is Dreyfus's response.
To those in the community that have been subjected to misdeeds by some of these individuals?
Olivia, the reason that these people have been released from immigration detention is because the High Court has made a decision that means it is illegal for us to continue to detain them. And I have been happy to say on many occasions that if I had any legal power to re-detain all of these people, I would do it immediately. I would do it immediately. So what you have seen the government do is put in place, I have to say, extensive legislation and layers of protection for the Australian community. The job of the three of us is to protect the Australian community within the Australian law, and that is exactly what we're focused on.
This woman on the weekend.
I want to suggest to you that that question is an absurd question. You are asking a cabinet minister, 3 ministers of the Crown, to apologise for upholding the law of Australia, for acting in accordance with the law of Australia, for following the instructions of the High Court of Australia. I will not be apologising for upholding the law. I will not be apologising for pursuing the rule of law, and I will not be apologising for acting. Do not interrupt. I will not be apologising for acting. I will not be apologising for acting in accordance with a High Court decision. Your question is an absurd one.
Okay, I think we'll move on.
So that was an interesting exchange, I thought, and I certainly wouldn't want to face up to Dreyfus, who's a barrister, solicitor barrister, on those particular issues. So that was an interesting exchange. Just needed to play that to you because he should not, neither should anybody else, take responsibility for simply abiding by the law, which was set by the High Court. And the other question for me was then, if you contravene the law, if you choose to do something against what the High Court has said, what is the penalty? I've often wondered about that. And they, fortunately, provided a response. And here's the response.
One of the claims the opposition's been making is that you released 130, 140 people before the High Court had released its reasons, and they keep insinuating that maybe that wasn't necessary, you only had to release the actual plaintiff in the original case. Can you explain why so many people were released? And this is a genuine request for information, and on what basis, given we hadn't seen the reasons?
What the opposition has said is simply not true. I had a statement that I made tabled in the Senate yesterday, and it makes it very clear. The decision of the High Court sets a new limit on the power to detain anyone in the same position as the plaintiff in that case, and it had to be implemented immediately. As you'd expect, the Department of Home Affairs is now undertaking an expert assessment to determine which people in detention are covered by the High Court's decision. Once that assessment is complete, and the criterion is not anything to do with the nature of the person, it's to do with whether or not there is a real possibility of them being removed to another country. Once that assessment is complete, any delay on the part of the government in releasing such a person would expose the Commonwealth officials concerned to personal liability for false imprisonment. The Albanese government cannot and would not ask a Commonwealth official to break the law. And that, apparently, is what Peter Dutton is asking us to do, to break the law, and that's what we will not do. We will not expose Commonwealth officials to being sued or to disciplinary action, or the Commonwealth to potentially large awards of damages against the Commonwealth for breaking the law.
I might just add to Mark's done the law, let me do the political bit. What the Coalition is saying is absolute garbage, and they know that. They know that. They are out there telling lies, and they have been playing politics with this for weeks, and I get that you all have to report that, but let's call it for what it is, garbage and lies.
So I thought I'd just leave you with his final statement, which is always having a shot at the Liberal and National Party. And I think the important thing to understand here is that a law is a law. There will be people that will be penalised. That could be those people that work for the government, those people that make the decisions, and also there could be some sort of remuneration paid if that law is contravened. So there you have it. Just let me know what you think. Please subscribe to my channel and ring the bell for further notifications. Let me know what you think in the comments below about any of those videos that I've played. Thanks for being with me, everybody. Take care, look after yourselves, and more importantly, be safe.